Bhagavate Devaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprahishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 6, the liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Text 172 onwards. Vyasa Bhranta Bali Sahi Sutre Dosha Diya Vivarta Vada Sthapiya Che Kalpana Kariya. Shankaracharya states that the theory of transformation presented in the Vedanta Sutra implies that the absolute truth itself is transformed. In this way, the Mayavadi philosophers denigrate Srila Vyasadeva by accusing him of error. Thus, they find fault in the Vedanta Sutra and misinterpret it to try to establish the theory of illusion. So the first aphorism of Brahma Sutra is Athata Brahma Jigyasa. We must now inquire into the absolute truth. The second aphorism immediately answers Janmadiyasya Yata. The absolute truth is a source of everything. Janmadhyasya Yata does not suggest that the original person has been transformed. Rather, it clearly indicates that he produces this cosmic manifestation through his inconceivable energy. This is also clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Matta sarvam pravartate, from me everything emanates. This is also confirmed in Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato va imani bhutani jayante. The supreme absolute truth is that from which everything is born. Similarly, in Mundak Upanishad it states, Yatvorna navi srijate grinate cha. The Lord creates and destroys a cosmic manifestation. As a spider creates a web and draws it back within himself. All of these Vedic statements indicate the transformation of the Lord's energy, not of the Lord himself. See, this is the real understanding, but those who want to misinterpret, they just misinterpret it. Transformation of the Lord's energy is called Parinamvad. However, being very anxious to protect Srila Vyasadeva from criticism, Shankaracharya became a pseudo-gentleman and put forward his theory of illusion, which is Vivartavad. Shankaracharya concocted this meaning of Parinamvad, and by word jugglery he endeavored very hard to establish Parinamvad as Vivartavad. So Vivartavad says, the Lord, there is a transformation in the absolute. And that is when they say some transformation happened in Brahmjyoti and Krishna came. Transformation happened, Lord Ram came and performed their pastimes. But ultimately it's Brahmjyoti. Jivera dehe atma buddhi sei mithya haya jagat mithya nahe nashvar matra haya. The theory of illusion can be applied only when the living entity identifies himself with the body. As far as the cosmic manifestation is concerned, it can be called false, although it is certainly temporary. So they say, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. So Jagat is not Mithya. It is temporary, it's not false. The living entity is the eternal servant of Krishna. Being part and parcel of the Lord, he is constitutionally pure. But due to his contact with the material energy, he identifies himself with either the gross or the subtle material body. Such identification is certainly false and constitutes the genuine platform of the theory of illusion. The living entity is eternal. He can never be subjected to the limits of time, as are his gross and subtle bodies. This cosmic manifestation is never false, but it is subject to change by the influence of the time factor. For a living entity to accept this cosmic manifestation as a field for his sense enjoyment is certainly illusory. So that is the illusion. Rest, everything is real. This material world is manifestation of the material energy of the Lord. This is explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Bhume Rapo Analo Vayu. Earth, water, air, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. All together, these eight constitute my separated material energies. So they're definitely energies of Krishna, not false. The material world is the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of God. But it's not a fact that the Supreme Lord has been transformed into this material world. So Janmadya Seyata means he's the source of everything. Not that he transforms himself into this material world. The Mayavadi philosophers, devoid of true understanding, have confused the theory of illusion and the theory of the cosmic manifestation by word jugglery. The theory of illusion can be applied to a person who identifies himself with the body. So that is illusion, not the body is illusion. The living entity is a superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and the material world is the inferior energy. Both, however, are Prakriti, energy. Although the energies are simultaneously one with the Lord and different from him, the Lord never loses his personal form due to the transformations of his different energies. So, technical differences are there, it just one has to be careful to understand everything. That's all. Pranavye Mahavakya Ishwarer Murti Pranavaite Sarva Veda Jagata Utpatti. The transcendental vibration, Omkar, is a sound form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All Vedic knowledge and this cosmic manifestation are produced from this sound representation of the Supreme Lord. So, sound form of the Lord. Om is not the Lord himself. It's a sound representation. Omkar is a representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in sound. This form of his holy name is accepted as a transcendental vibration, Mahavakya, by virtue of which the temporary material manifestation has come into being. If one takes shelter of the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Omkar, he can realize his constitutional identity and engage in devotional service, even though in conditioned life. So, Omkar, it's a sound representation of Krishna. So, even if somebody takes shelter of this Omkar, he can make progress. But then what's the difference between Omkar and Harina? Why Harina? Because Harina means Hare Krishna Maha Mantra gives us Krishna Prem plus everything else, constitutional identity, engaging in devotion service, everything else, plus Krishna Prem. That's not attainable by chanting Omkar. Tattvam asi, jiva hetu pradeshika vakya, pranavna manitare kahe mahavakya. The subsidiary vibration, Tattvam asi, you are the same, is meant for the understanding of the living entity, but the principal vibration is Omkar. Not caring for Omkar. Shankaracharya has stressed the vibration Tattvam Asi. The Tattvam Asi is accepted as a primary vibration by one who does not accept Pranav. Pranav means Omkar, the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name of the Lord, as a chief principle in the Vedic literature. By word jugglery, Shankaracharya tried to create an illusory presentation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his relationship with the living entities and the cosmic manifestation. Tattvam Asi is a warning to the living entity not to mistake the body for the self. So you are the same. You means that the living entity, the soul, not the body. Therefore, Tattvam Asi is especially meant for the conditioned soul. The chanting of Omkar or the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is meant for the liberated soul. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Ai Mukta Kudair Upasya Manam. Thus, the holy name of the Lord is chanted by the liberated souls. Similarly, Parikshit Maharaj said, Nivrit Tarshaya Mana. The holy name of the Lord can be chanted by those who have fully satisfied their material desires, or who are fully situated on the transcendental platform and devoid of material desires. The name of the Lord can be chanted by one who is completely freed from material contamination. Anya Vilashita Shunya. Shankaracharya has indirectly minimized the value of the principal Vedic mantra Omkar by accepting a subordinate vibration, Tattvamasi, as the most important Vedic mantra. So the differences are being brought forward by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Prabhupada is giving commentary on that. Ei mate kalpita bhashya shat dosha dila bhattacharya purva paksh apara karila. Thus, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu criticized Shankaracharya's Sharirak Bhashya as imaginary, and he pointed out hundreds of faults in it. To defend Shankaracharya, however, Sarvam Bhattacharya presented unlimited opposition. So obviously, whatever he is following, he's going to try to prove it is right. Vitanda chala nigrahari aneka uthaila sab khandi prabhu nija mata se sthapila. The Bhattacharya presented various types of false arguments with pseudo logic and tried to defeat his opponent in many ways. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all these arguments and established his own conviction. The word Vitanda indicates that a debater, not touching the main point or establishing his own point, simply tries to refute the other person's argument. When one does not touch the direct meaning but tries to divert attention by misinterpretation, he engages in chala. Okay. The word nigraha also means always trying to refute the arguments of the other party instead of establishing his own point. भगवान संबंध भक्ति अभिधेय है प्रेम प्रयोजन वेदे तीन वस्तु का है. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a central point of all relationships. Acting in devotional service to Him is one's real occupation, and the attainment of love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. These three subject matters are described in the Vedic literature. So, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna confirms this statement, Vedasya Sarveraham me Vedya. The actual purpose in reading the Vedas is to learn how to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord. The Lord Himself advises, Man manabha mad bhakto madhyagi mam namaskar. Therefore, after studying the Vedas, one must then execute devotional service by thinking always of the Supreme Lord, Manmana, becoming His devotee, worshipping Him, and always offering obeisances or pranams. This is called Vishnu Aradhana, and it is the supreme occupational duty of all human beings. It is properly discharged in the Varnashram Dharma system, which divides society into Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, and Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. This is the whole scheme of Vedic civilization. So, to engage Aradhana in the Vishnu Aradhana in the Varnashram system. That's all. However, this institution is very difficult to establish in this age. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that we not worry about the Vedic system of Varnashram Dharma. Rather, we should take directly to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and simply hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from pure devotees. This is the process recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is the purpose of studying the Vedas. That's all. Arye kichu kahe sakale kalpana, swata pramana veda vakya kalpena lakshana. If one tries to explain the Vedic literature in a different way, he is indulging in imagination. Any interpretation of the self-evident Vedic version is simply imaginary. And this Mahaprabhu is telling Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because he listened to his commentary on Vedanta Sutra for 7 days. And he didn't even say anything. Now he's saying Vedic literature, very clearly they say. But we misinterpret them, and like he said, Shankaracharya has given illusory commentary. When a conditioned soul is purified, he is called a devotee. A devotee has his relationship only with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His only occupational duty is to execute devotional service to satisfy the Lord. This service is rendered through the Lord's representative, the spiritual master. Yasya deve parabhakti retha deve tatha guru. When the devotee executes devotional service properly, he attains the highest perfection of life, love of Godhead. Sarve punsam paro bhakto paro dharmo yato bhakti rathokshate. So the ultimate goal of understanding the Vedas is to be elevated to the platform of rendering loving service to the Lord. So that's the ultimate goal. The Mayavadi philosophers, however, consider the central point of relationship to be the impersonal Brahman, the function of the living entity to be acquisition of knowledge of Brahman, resulting in detachment from material activity. And the ultimate goal of life to be liberation, or merging into the existence of the Supreme. All of this, however, is simply due to the imagination of the conditioned soul. It simply opposes him to material activities. One should always remember that all Vedic literatures are self-evident. No one is allowed to interpret the Vedic verses. If one does so, he indulges in imagination, and that has no value. Imagination has no value. So the real meaning, as a Prabhupada is saying, Vedic literature is self-evident. No need to misinterpret the meaning and establish something. Acharya dosha nahi Ishwar agya dhyaila ateva kalpana kari nastik shastra kaila. Actually, there is no fault on the part of Shankaracharya. He simply carried out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had to imagine some kind of interpretation, and therefore he presented a kind of Vedic literature that is full of atheism. So he followed the orders of Krishna and presented this Mayavad philosophy. But this is not what he wanted to do. He's a Param Vaishnava. Swagame kalpitastvam cha jananamad vimukhan kuru mam cha gopya yena syat srishtir esho tarottara. Addressing Lord Shiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, "Please make the general populace averse to me by imagining your own interpretation of the Vedas. Also cover me in such a way that people will take more interest in advancing material civilization just to propagate a population bereft of spiritual knowledge. This is a quotation from Padma Puran, Uttarakhand. So the Lord himself told Shankar, Lord Shiva, to go and give your own interpretation and cover in such a way. See, on one side, Prabhupada is writing that in Mayavadi philosophy, one becomes detached from material activity. But here in this shloka, it is mentioned they take more interest in advancing material civilization. So if something is illusory, Brahm, Satya, Jagan, Mithya, to why make advancement in material civilization? So this Mahaprabhu is saying just to propagate a population bereft of spiritual knowledge, they do that. Mayavadam asatshatra shastra prachannam bodham chitte mayeva vihitam devi kalo brahmana murti. Lord Shiva informed Goddess Durga, the superintendent of the material world. In the age of Kali, I take the form of a Brahman and explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy. So himself, Lord Shiva said that. The word Brahman Murtina in this verse refers to the founder of Mayavad philosophy, Shankaracharya, who was born in the Malava district of southern India. Mayavad philosophy states that the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the cosmic manifestation are all transformations of illusory energy. Even the Supreme Lord is a transformation of Maya. To support this atheistic theory, the Mayavadis cite false scriptures which make people bereft of transcendental knowledge and addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. So this verse is a quotation from Padma Puran, Uttarakhand. Shuni Bhattacharya Hela Parama Vismita Mukhe Nani Sare Vani Haila Stambhita. Sarma Bhattacharya became very much astonished upon hearing this. He became stunned, said nothing. Prabhu kahe Bhattacharya Nakara Vismai Bhagwane Bhagavati Param Purushartha. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told him, do not be astonished. Actually, devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest perfection of human activity. Atma Ram Paryanta Kare Ishvara Bhajan Aiche Achintya Bhagavanera Gunagan. Even the self-satisfied sages perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Such are the transcendental qualities of the Lord. They are full of inconceivable spiritual potency. Atma Ramascha Munyo Niragrantha Pirukrame Kurvanti Ahetu Kim Mitham Putaguno Hari. So those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Shri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendently attractive features. This is a famous Atmaram verse, 1 Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th chapter, 10th verse. So I guess we can stop here because Bhattacharya after this asked Mahaprabhu to give meaning of this verse, explain. And Mahaprabhu explained in, I think, 9 different ways, something like that. And when later Sanatana Goswami asked for this explanation, he gave 61 different explanations of same words. It's such an important verse. So I guess we can stop this. Anybody has any questions or comments? Okay. You all have safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare